Maisie Dobbs glanced around, taking account of the congregation gathered in Chelston's ancient parish church. She was sure not one more person could be squeezed into the edifice. Every single pew was packed with villagers and visitors who'd travelled from far and wide to pay their respects to the deceased. She sighed, drawing her gaze beyond those gathered to the rounded entrance, a hallmark of the church's early Norman architecture, and then up towards the wooden buttresses holding the roof fast, as if to catch the prayers of those below. She had met a woman, once, who told her she could see the prayers from distressed souls littering the ceiling of every church she had ever entered, as if those heartfelt messages had been inscribed on fine tissue paper and cast up so God could reach down to collect each one. Maisie had always been intrigued by the names bestowed upon the different parts of a church: the nave, the chancel, the transept, altar and apse. The sanctuary. Sanctuary. The word echoed in her soul. The church's vintage attested to the hundreds of years local folk had come to mark baptisms, marriages, and the burials of loved ones, to celebrate Christmas, Easter, and her favourite, the Harvest Festival. Today marked the laying to rest of Lord Julian Compton. For a moment Maisie stared at plaques dedicated to the glorious dead of 2 world wars, then cast her eyes towards the carpenter's tools left on a bench set against the cold stone walls. She was wondering how many more names would be added, when she felt a light squeeze against her fingers as Lady Rowan Compton took her hand. She pressed the liver-marked hand in return, and Lady Rowan leant into her, her gesture revealing the older woman's need to be grounded in her presence. For though Maisie had remarried, she was still the widow of Rowan's only son. In her much shorter life, Maisie had worn the black of mourning twice to mark the loss of a man she adored, and during that time Rowan had come to appreciate her daughter-in-law's strength even more, grateful for her fortitude at the worst of times. Maisie knew all this, not least because the motherly love bestowed upon her was returned. Seated in the square panelled section of the church designated for generations of the Compton family, who had once owned the entire village and still presided over some 4,000 acres of the surrounding land, Maisie whispered to the matriarch. "Rowan, don't worry. I'm bearing up, Maisie." She squeezed Maisie's hand again. "I won't let down my wonderful Julian with tears." "I'm here, Rowan." "I know." The vicar gave an almost imperceptible nod in their direction, and as Rowan released her grasp, Maisie came to her feet, walked towards the grand brass lectern, and stepped up to the Bible, already open to the page from which she would read. It was a tome so heavy only the pages were ever moved. She felt the urge to cough mounting and cleared her throat.